Welcome to Business Reporter's Facilities Management campaign. I'm Rachel Hicks. The growing importance of customer experience will come as no surprise to most chief executives who will be only too aware that customer experience is set to overtake price and product as the key brand differentiators by 2020, according to a Walker study. The latest UK Satisfaction Index identified that getting hold of the right person to help is the biggest improvement organisations need to make. However, achieving this within large and complex organisations is a huge challenge. For professional service firms, it can mean the difference between landing a multi-million-pound deal and losing it to a competitor. Is it possible to receive and respond to all important calls whilst filtering out the unnecessary cold calls? Well, this is what we're exploring today with Andrew Try from ComXo. Good morning, Andrew.
Good morning, Rachel.
Now, we get a lot of nuisance calls on our phones and via many communications methods, but we also miss valuable calls as well. How do you quantify that loss? How do we deal with that loss?
A question for any organisation is, how do you determine the difference between the valuable calls, the £10 million calls, and the nuisance calls? The valuable calls, we want to ensure we get every single one of. We cannot afford to miss a single one of those. They drive our business. And what occurs to me is that if somebody has bothered to pick the phone up and make a call, and that call is going to be valuable to the organisation, then the last thing they want to do is to speak to a voicemail, or even indeed speak to somebody who says, "Can I take a message?" No, I don't want to take a message. I don't want you to take a message. I want to speak to somebody. It is about understanding that satisfying that caller's requirement at the first encounter is what drives exceptional customer service, which means that the caller is going to do business with you. The issue that organizations have is that they get so many calls that are productivity wasting, cold calls, the cheesy salesman trying to sell you another coffee machine, is that because none of us want to take those calls, is that we don't take any calls at all. We put voicemail in front and use the voicemail to screen and gatekeep. And at ComXo, what we're doing is we're turning back the clock and we're saying those calls, that gatekeeping mechanism, should be done by an experienced, expert switchboard operator enabled with extraordinary amount of technology that means that every time a value call comes into the organisation, we nail it and we make sure that it gets seamlessly put through to the right person, that you can act upon it.
That means, though, that instead of trusting ourselves and picking up our own voicemail and deciding what's important and what's not, we have to put the trust in you to make a decision, which is a big leap of faith, isn't it?
It is, but our research of over a million calls that we take a year tells us that of those a million calls, 26% are value calls. And we know, because we act as the gatekeepers for our clients, is that the misuse of voicemail is endemic across organisations. So the size of the problem of voicemail managing, gatekeeping value calls is not only do we all do it, but actually none of us know what the consequences of missing those calls are. I can tell you a story about a single call that delivered over £10 million to one of my clients. We've got to take ourselves back in time to Friday the 13th of January 2012. And it's 4 o'clock in the morning and a call comes through to our switchboard. And it's an American on the phone. And he says in a very demanding voice, "I need to speak to this particular lawyer in one of the firms that we act on behalf of." And our operator is sitting there, in the dark outside. And it says on the screen, who the lawyer is, and the operator is enabled with this technology that gives them the home telephone number. But to decide to call the lawyer at that time at 4 o'clock in the morning, they have to have the confidence that they're doing the right thing. So at ComXo, we don't just say, "Can I take a message?" We have a process of fact-finding. understanding, is this a value call or is it a time-wasting call? And we took the client through that process. And is it urgent? Yes, it's urgent. Can I ask what it's about? No, I can't tell you, but I do need to speak to this person. And the operator made the decision to wake up this particular lawyer. And it's a good thing that they did, because that caller was the chairman of Carnival Cruise Liners. The Costa Concordia had sunk that night with the loss of 32 souls. And for him, it was £1 billion of hardware that lay on the ocean floor. And we put that call through to the head of Admiralty of this particular client. And what I didn't realise until he shook me by the hand when I next went in there, he said, Andrew, that single call will generate £10 million of revenue for our firm. It was a £10 million call. Thank you very much. So understanding the difference between a value call, the £10 million call that comes in at 4 o'clock in the morning on a cold January night, and the cheesy salesman who's trying to flog you a coffee machine is essential for an organisation.
But this really is just about well-educated, well-trained operators.
Well, it starts with that. That is always the core. But then it's about enabling them with technology that means that they get that value call every single time, that they understand the cold calls and who they are. And we've got a whole range of technologies that we have developed over the years that support our virtual personal assistants in their ability to determine the difference. So it is about great people. People always can make that call that technology can't. But it is about supporting them with specific proprietary technologies that we have that enable us to do that. And that is what ComXo is all about.
Andrew, thank you for joining us today.
Thank you very much.